Okay, thank you so much, Margot. You always go above and beyond.
Of course, done this
So
for
I
a
got to
long
start
time.
with the basic boring questions like what is your diagnosis and how long have you had this condition?
Yeah, okay. I know those answers for sure. Cerebral palsy I've had from birth. It probably happened to me in the womb or as I was being born. Cerebral palsy means that I had a brain injury at or around the time of birth. And in my case, it affects my signals in my muscles and stuff. So my muscles are very, very tight. And then that causes me to have to use crutches because it affects my balance and sense of where my limbs are in space and things like that. So I have to use mobility aids like crutches or a scooter to get around.
Gotcha.
hmm
That was an excellent answer. When did you understand what your disability was and how it affects you?
So my mom was very smart and told me what my disability was when I, age appropriately when I was around 3 years old, so I could start explaining it to other people and start advocating for what I needed. Like if I was, in preschool and stuff, I could start to say, "Hey, I have trouble with this thing and I need help with this." So that made it a lot easier. I found out from other friends that I knew with cerebral palsy that sometimes the parents would wait until they were much older or maybe not even tell them at all, and then they weren't able to get the accommodations that they needed because they just didn't know what they had or like how it actually worked.
As a person that's disabled and works in disability, I cannot agree with you more. That's the worst thing you can do is
Oh
ignore
yeah.
it, keep it from your kids.
Oh yeah.
Okay, have you ever been ignored by your peers due to your disability?
I wouldn't say I was ignored, but I usually have to speak up first because, like, if I just leave it to them, a lot of people tend to be too scared to ask any questions or anything like that. So if I talk first, people like relax and they're like, "Okay, you're a neat person, nothing to worry about." But if I leave it to the people, they're so afraid of offending me that they don't say anything at all.
Oh, I feel that.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever been made fun of for your disability?
One time, yeah, they and I have this depicted in one of my films called Dramacided. They you know, like thought that it was like a contagious disease, so they said, "Oh, I'm going to catch it from you," like stupid things. And then I forget what my
Uh,
mom said to say to them, but she told me to tell them something that like scared the crap out of them. They never came near me again.
awesome mom.
I know. She gets all the credit.
Oh yeah.
I've dealt with little things like that. Like one guy kind of insinuated that in order to prove myself, I would have to get three PhDs. Otherwise, people wouldn't take me seriously. Little things like that. Like you need to be more independent, like and use independent almost like a slur. Like you're not independent enough to do this, and you have to. There's actually one woman who said I had to prove I was independent by getting a Facebook page. And I was like, what does a Facebook page have to do with independence? That's just weird.
Yeah, that's very strange. Sounds like she has some type of mental issue.
Yeah, she definitely did. She was disabled herself and like I
Uh,
guess like she was very like sheltered and couldn't do these things, so she thought
uh,
like that was a way of me like asserting the fact that I was an adult. And I'm like, no, if I want to assert the fact that I'm an adult now, I'm going to do it the way that I think is cool. I'm not going to mess around with the social media stuff that I think is crap.
have you ever longed to not have this disability?
I mean, I would say that I long to get rid of the balance issues, but overall, I would say that cerebral palsy has been a plus in my life because I wouldn't have met the friends that I have now if I didn't have cerebral palsy. So I would definitely keep the disability, but if I could, I'd get rid of the balance issues, which are the biggest issue for me.
Have you ever felt that your disability has advantages that you would not have if you were able bodied?
Yeah, I definitely do because with CP, you can kind of, if you have to, because of the way that you move, you can kind of get people's attention a little bit more if you have to. So if I'm trying to draw attention to an issue or something like that, I could sort of use my disability experience to say, hey, this maybe is why this isn't a good policy or something like that. And people tend to pay attention to that. Also, CP, my sensibility of that has improved my writing ability because it gives me a different way of seeing things like because I think of like balance and movement a lot differently, so that affects how I write the characters and how they're thinking about things.
Good. I've never even thought of that. That's really good. What are some misconceptions people have about your disability?
They have the misconception that it's genetic. It is not genetic. The other thing is sometimes they'll have the misconception that I'm partially paralyzed. I'm not. I can move all the limbs. It's just the muscles are so tight that the movement doesn't
Gotcha.
happen very well. It's like when you get a text, but you get it late because the message wasn't sent right at the right time or
Oh,
something like that.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
I understand with the delayed coordination. Obviously, I don't know what you're going through. My muscles aren't really tight. They're just, I mean, Dylan's told you about how bad my coordination is. I do.
Yeah,
But
dyspraxia, right?
yes.
Yeah, one of my students had that, and we realized how similar the dyspraxia seemed to be for him to my CP because he had all the same balance issues that I had. So I was like, okay, this I know how to work with because I was teaching him how to be an actor. So I said, I'm going to teach you the way an actor with CP taught me to like compensate for the balance issue, and it
Mhm.
worked really well. Yeah.
Oh, you take medications or have you taken medications in the past for this ailment or something related to this ailment?
Luckily, in my case, I'm a very healthy person with CP, so I've actually never been on medication for it, but it's very common for some people to be on pain medication, epilepsy medication, because epilepsy often comes with CP, or sometimes people have anxiety disorder that co-occurs with it. I've been one of the lucky ones that doesn't have these co-occurring problems with it, but a
Oh,
lot of people do. Hmm.
do you think your disability gets enough medical funding?
Depends on what they're funding. I think it gets enough funding as far as like researching how to make the accommodations better? Certainly no, but some of the research and stuff should also be in adults. I feel like they're focusing a lot on kids with the research,
Yeah.
but they need to research the aging process in CP, and they're not doing that.
Do you think, if possible, it would be a good idea to eradicate this disease or this disability?
I mean, I don't think it's something that it should be like a high priority. If people want cures and stuff like that, people should, people with CP that want that should like push for that if they feel that that's the right thing. I don't think so. I think we should focus more on like things that are potentially fatal, whereas CP is not fatal, so it should be a little bit lower on the
Yeah,
like
no, that.
rung of things. I'd rather my like ex-boyfriend that's diabetic, I'd rather him be cured because he can die from that. This is not going to kill me. So like priorities, and I never wanted to get rid of it. So I'm like, if you want to get rid of it, go ahead, but I'm not at all interested in your cures, except for the balance thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever receive therapy for this disability?
Yeah, I had physical therapy and occupational therapy for like traditional for like 14 years, and then for about 7 years I worked with a dancer with CP who like helped me learn how to use it to my advantage as a performer, and it helped to kind of there's something called neuroplasticity, so it kind of helped me to like
I
rewire
know
some
that.
of the balancing with that. It worked really well.
What is this is the last question? What's the single hardest issue you have that pertains to your disability?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say the hardest thing is just the ableism and and like accommodation things when it's not given. My biggest issue that I had with the CP recently was, this was a couple of years back. This is why I moved to Pennsylvania. The college that I was going to go to, they didn't want to give me classes in closer proximity, so I literally could not go to that school without that accommodation. I had to literally move to a different state. So that would be like the biggest stuff. If it like little things like that don't happen,
Yeah.
you're screwed. Yeah.
So this is not related to this interview, but I'm super happy to hear that you like old music like me and Dylan.
Oh yeah, big fan.
Who are some of your favorite artists?
Well, I happen to she's not like super old, but I love Pink, and I also love, as far as like older artists, I love Dolly Parton, and a lot of the same stuff that Dylan likes. We end up listening to the same songs. So a lot of the same people
Yeah.
that Dylan's into. Like I like Elvis stuff, and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Has Dylan told you I have an unhealthy obsession with Janis Joplin?
Oh yeah, you have the good taste too. My mom and I
Yep.
both love her.
Yep. I absolutely. Me and my friend, we were gonna go to Janis Joplin's home in Port Arthur. She's from Port Arthur, Texas. But I had to pay for my car to get repairs. But yeah, on this Friday too. We're gonna go down there and stay a couple of days to see her porch and her childhood home and all that.
Oh, fun. Wonderful.
But it
Oh,
was great to talk to you. Is there anything you need from me?
Well, that actually came up today. I'm supposed to do a little essay for my biology class, and part of it, they might want me to type some stuff about dyspraxia. So if you could just like describe to me what that is, um, so I could write a little like couple sentences on that.
I believe the DSM, it's no longer called dyspraxia. It's under developmental coordination disorder, but it's the same thing.
Oh,
And
the name changed.
yeah, do you
Interesting.
like Harry Potter?
I've read the first book, but that's as far as I got.
Oh, well, anyway, the actor, I don't know if you like him or not. I think his name's Daniel Radcliffe. He has dyspraxia, and he did an interview about how it made him like having to be Harry Potter. It would take him longer to do the coordination, the movements than like Ron and Hermione, and it helped him. It was like a therapy in and of itself.
Oh, neat. Yeah, that's like what Greg and I were doing with the CP. If you want to see the work that Greg and I did, we were actually in a documentary called Enter the Fawn. And you can look that up and actually see it. I
Send
think
me the link to that.
yeah, it's on Amazon now, I think, and a couple of other sites. So let me pull that up for you because I think you're gonna love that. And I'll also send you my films too, so you can see like how my characters in the films move. CP comes in like different forms. Like some of my actors have it on only one side of the body. I got it on both sides of the body because both sides of my brain are affected. And I have friends that are like how Dylan is with like the wheelchair and the blindness and stuff, but like from the CP. So it comes in all different versions.
It's spectrum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like autism. It comes in different levels like that.
I used to be a caregiver for a girl with CP, autism, ADHD, and she also had cyclic vomiting syndrome.
What's that last one called again?
Cyclic vomiting syndrome,
Yikes! What is
where
that?
my stomach, and actually the girl that I just started working with at my new job, she has it too. And it's related to migraine, it's not a migraine headache. And it causes you to like throw up nonstop. And they have to have like opioids, it's so painful. And they have to be on obviously anti-nausea medication. It was really a threat for her because she has CP. So it was always she could aspirate.
Right. I don't know if you've ever heard of this person. His name is Christy Brown. He had CP and he actually died by vomiting and choking on the vomit.
Oh,
That was years ago, though.
was
They
he
have
like
better
intoxicated?
treatments now. He was like a much older guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And he had like the most severe form of CP. He could only like really move one limb. The rest of the limbs were pretty useless. So he had it pretty bad. Yeah.
Well, girl, like she could walk on her own and stuff, even though she was uncoordinated. Because I mean, come on, she has autism and the other one, the CP.
Yeah, a lot of people actually get them together, which I didn't
Oh yeah,
realize so many people with autism had CP, but it kind of makes sense after
yep,
seeing, how Dylan moves. It was like, yeah, I could see how the two go together.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I just saw on Instagram there was another person with autism that also had CP, so I was like, hey, more of my people. Cool.
Oh yeah, awesome. Well, anyway, with dyspraxia, so I'm sure you're aware of child development. It doesn't happen all at once, right? Like somebody that's 6 months old is gonna a 9 month old is there's gonna be drastic development, right? That the 9 month old, the nine
Oh
month old
yeah.
or the 6 month old. We're just assuming it's typical development. And like with me with my coordination, I feel like I'm the 6 month old at 9 months old. Like it's always slow, it's always behind, kind of like you were talking about earlier. And no matter how hard I try, my brain just can't catch up. Another thing is, like when I was working with FedEx, this is so frustrating. People think I'm doing it on purpose. I'll tell them, I have dyspraxia, where my brain cannot just catch up, and I cannot like get the. Basically, I don't dance because I can't keep up the movements in order, and it's cognitively, I know what you're telling me, but my brain
The
just
brain
will
doesn't
do
do
it.
it. Yeah, I have the
Yeah.
same thing with executive functions where like I know I'm
Oh yeah.
supposed to do that, but the brain
You know
doesn't
the
like
executive,
alert
yeah,
me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. Executive functioning and coordination are go hand in hand. They actually now know that if your executive functioning is bad, you'll have bad coordination, and vice versa.
Oh,
Almost
it's
all.
like the same like linkages in the brain. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yep.
gonna
It is
send you
so
my
interesting.
films too, so you can actually see what we all kind of look like. I cast disabled actors in all of my films who have like the actual disabilities that they're playing. So a lot of biology professors end up using my stuff too, even though it's fictionalized. They, see like, oh yeah, the actor is like doing an accurate thing there
That's
because they
so
actually
neat.
have it. Yeah,
That is so awesome.
yeah,
And another way I would describe this practice are my coordination issues. It's just
yeah.
frustrating, like how some autistic people can't talk. I can't do those coordinated issues, and it gets really frustrating because I look like an asshole because people think, oh, they assume I'm able-bodied. So it,
Yeah, that's the problem that Dylan had before the wheelchair. Everybody thought that
yeah,
she was able-bodied, and she's like screaming in pain. They don't believe her, and I'm like, "Are
yeah.
you nuts?" Mm.
And people don't understand, like, why are you not getting this? And it's, again, it goes back to my coordination executive functioning is really that bad. And I feel like I've been very misunderstood, which most disabled people do feel that way. But luckily, now that we really understand what's going on with me, I'm like, I am such a quirky little genius with Rain Man tendencies.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Once you like know what it is, you like calm down a little bit, and you're
I'm
like,
like,
"How can I use this to
I,
my advantage?" Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I think pretty much for, of course, all disabilities have different issues and stuff. But I think at the core, it's all the same, where you just feel like, you lag behind and stuff.
Yeah, especially with the developmental disabilities, as Dylan and I often talk about, because, like, you see these kids, they're developing, same age as you, but they're like motor wise so much far ahead of you. And it's like, what
Yeah.
am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or people making rude comments about my coordination before we knew I had dyspraxia and all that. Like, my coordination has always been behind. Like, when I was 4 in pre-K, this one lady that was a specialist, she came and she was like, "Oh yeah, her coordination is behind," and like she said, "Oh, have her parents tie a ball. It's not that big of a deal." Blah blah blah. And then in second grade, it was still behind and all that, and so on and so forth. I mean, it's still behind, and I'm cool about that.
Yeah. Did you have to do all the stuff like I did with like the therapy balls and all that stuff?
No, it wasn't like that extreme. I did go to play therapy because they just thought I had ADHD. They didn't realize how truly bad my coordination was and how truly bad it would, how it wouldn't get any better. They didn't realize that at the time, which, I mean, it's really not their fault. I just wish my parents or, just somebody would have been like, hey, let's look into this more.
Yeah, that's what I'm been reading about. Like with autism, they're so focused on the social part that they're not
Mm-hmm.
watching the physical health.
Yep.
And then you saw with Dylan, when you don't watch, things happen. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I
So
said if I ever end up with a cute little mini version of Dylan as a kid, I am going to like have him checked for every physical thing just in
oh, yeah,
case.
neurocognitive evaluation. That's the best way to go.
Yeah,
Brain
yeah. I never had one officially, I think, except for when I was in early intervention. They did like a very basic one.
Yeah.
Because I was also adopted. I don't know if Dylan
Yeah,
mentioned,
Dylan
but
told that one time. My mom was adopted. I think adoption is so exciting and wonderful.
oh, me too. Yeah, my mom's adopted by my grandmother, and she wanted to keep up the tradition by adopting me, and I'm going to do the same
You're
thing.
from Russia, right?
Yeah, originally born there. They didn't realize I had CP at first, but they knew like something was a little off because we have like, medical tests that they had done. And then around
Yeah.
8 months they figured out, oh, okay, that's cerebral palsy. That's not just institutional like developmental delay. Because
Yeah.
at first they
Gotcha.
thought, oh, all the babies are kind of delayed because they're in a group home kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah, definitely.
Right. And then, they wouldn't release me at first. They were like, we don't want to like give anybody a defective product and have them send it back. And then my mom was like, no, I know she's disabled. I still want the baby. So they
Oh,
sent
that
me
shows how
over.
good of a person your mom is.
I know. She is the best.
Any other questions concerning dyspraxia?
I think that covers the basics at least. But as I'm writing this thing in like a day or two, if I have any other questions that come up, I will
Oh,
definitely
please
let you
ask.
know.
I
Yeah,
feel the same way too. I'm
talking
honored that
about it.
people ask about my disabilities.
Oh,
There's
neat.
more
Yeah.
awareness.
I mean, if I could, I'd probably write a whole book on CP, and some people want me to, so maybe that'll be a
I,
project for another day.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Awareness is everything. Oh, and also how you're saying ableism and accommodations are the issue you always have. That's my biggest issue is ableism and accommodations.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like certain aspects of the CP itself are annoying, but people's like other shit is way more annoying than anything my
Yeah,
brain
for
can do.
sure.
Because like the worst the CP can do is like, you hear this little voice inside your brain like, hold on to the wall, hold on to the wall, like because I hate the balance thing. So my brain's always like, hold on, please, so we don't fall. And then there's like all this like reflexes going off all the time. A lot of them are like linked to the fight or flight thing. It's called
Yeah.
the Moro reflex. So every time my phone goes off, I jump. Every time like my school thing beeps, I jump. It's like that's
Oh,
part of
yeah. I
the
do the
CP.
same stuff with autism. I wonder, since you're
Yeah.
saying it's for executive functioning, if you were to go on ADHD medication, because that's like the number one medication for executive functioning that would help you. And
Mine is like very slight though. Like
Yeah.
I can
What?
control it. Mine is
Okay.
like pretty slight though, so they never suggested a medication for that.
Yeah.
Although when I'm living by myself, I'm gonna look into that if it's still a problem. My mom
Yeah.
usually picks up the slack now, but if like people are saying you're disgusting, then I'm gonna look up the meds.
They have like the SNRIs that they use for ADHD and executive functioning issues. So it's not like you have to be on a stimulant.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. With me, they like never really pursued medication. A lot of it was like surgeries and stuff to help with the
Yeah.
muscle functioning.
That
With
makes
CP, they don't seem to, except for like things to loosen the muscles, they don't seem to mess with medications later until they find out the person's like got anxiety, depression, or, like insert the above mental health issue.
I guess if it's the actual brain that's damaged and not like the neurotransmitters like me and Dylan have with autism and ADHD, there really would be no medication yet. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
there's something called Baflin, that's for loosening the muscles. It's like based off of the Botox shots that some people with CP get, but it's like a more intense one. But it's kind of controversial because some people have died of allergies to that.
Oh,
And didn't know that they had it because like their bodies don't alert them that they have the
oh,
allergy or something.
gotcha.
Yeah. And then there's another really controversial surgery called selective dorsal rhizotomy. There was one doctor that wanted to do that on me, but we decided not to because with that one, they've improved it over a lot of years. But the way that they were going to do it back then was they were going to like open up the whole spine and basically like take a scissor and cut the nerves that they thought were linked to the CP. Now they do that all with a laser and they actually test which nerve that they're cutting. But
Oh,
back then you could like lose bladder control, you could become paralyzed and stuff. So we were like, oh no, 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 no.
yeah, that's
We're
probably
not
better.
doing that. And back then you like the way that they did the recovery is like you were separated from your family for like 6 months and like I was already like traumatized from the adoption thing. So they were like, no, we're not
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, when the kid's young.
Yeah, they like all of the surgeries are usually done between like age 3 and 5, I noticed. And then like as you
Oh,
get older,
gotcha.
sometimes you have like revisions and stuff done, but they try to do it young so like the child, if they can walk and stuff, that they start walking, around similar ages to their friends.
Gotcha.
Right. Trying to like follow the developmental path a little bit with the timing. And
And
also make
like,
sure we're big enough to actually have it work, I guess.
do you know what is the rate of comorbidity of intellectual disability in
I don't
um
know the actual rate for that, but I know the last time I checked the rate of CP, it was like 1 in 300 babies get CP. And then, like, a certain percentage of that is intellectual disability, although the majority of people with CP are considered either average intelligence or slightly above average intelligence. It just kind of depends on like where in the brain the brain injury hits. So like I did have one friend that had intellectual disabilities as a result of the brain damage, but like the rest of my friends who have it really don't. So
gotcha.
it's not the most common form of CP. That's like one of the side comorbidities that can happen. I think with CP they kind of assume that we're like, you know, slightly above average intelligence until they hear otherwise, unless you're in a
Oh,
wheelchair,
I
then they kind of seem to think that you're like cognitively impaired if you end up in a wheelchair. I don't know why people make that assumption, but
oh, so annoying.
yeah. And my friends who have speech issues as a result of the CP get it the worst, because sometimes when our muscles are that tight, we kind of can't talk very
Yeah,
well
that
or
makes
can't talk at all. And then they assume like, crazy or stupid or whatever the ableist word is now for that. So, you
yeah.
know, because like my friends who have talking issues get it the worst.
Uh-huh, yeah, that's so
Mm,
sad.
yeah.
Anything else?
I think that covers everything. Does this cover the questions you wanted to ask, or did
Oh,
anything I say spur any of the questions?
for sure. And if you have any questions on dyspraxia, autism, ADHD, hit me up. I'm more than willing to talk about it. I love to talk
Oh,
about it.
wonderful. Yeah, we need to have more of these talks because I'm
For
a
sure.
biology student that reads way too many medical articles on the brain.
Yeah. And good luck in your classes, and I hope we can speak again soon.
Yes, we definitely will. Anytime you want to call me, you can use the phone number I put on the email too.
Oh, thank you.
I wasn't sure if I was like allowed to ask for your phone number.
Oh no, I'll give it to you. I would love for you to call me.
Yeah, because I think we need to keep up this friendship.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna send you my number right now.
Yeah. I don't know if Dylan mentioned this, but I know that she was like hoping you would come to New York with her and then might end up changing your plan. But I can tell you, as a person who has a similar balancing issue to you, that going to New York and doing the touristy stuff, that's going to be a little bit hard on your body to do all that. I mean, it's
Oh
fun, but I know from having CP that like the touristy stuff is a pain in the ass.
yeah.
You can still do it, but you have to find an accessible way to do it where you and Dylan aren't going to be driven completely nuts. So,
No, I mean even in
yeah,
Austin, it's hard for me to move around and stuff sometimes.
yeah. Dylan said it's up and down all the time, hills and everything.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
tough.
yeah,
The only thing is now I have to get my car fixed. I don't know if I'll be able to come in July because I mean I got to get that fixed. I can't lose a car.
yeah, yeah. Definitely in a place like Texas, you need a car.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
bye, Margaret. It was great to see you.
it was great to